Hello, I'm Cindy Warren from the Office of Assessment and Accountability, Division of Assessment Support. Today we're going to talk about regulations, test security, accommodations, and the text reader for state testing. First, an update on our regulations. The testing is governed by two regulations, the Administration Code and the Inclusions of Special Populations. The inclusion regulation has been in a process of being updated to remove student initiation from the regulation. We have cleared one more hurdle by being approved by the State Board of Education to remove the wording throughout the regulation. It is, however, still in the process and has a few more steps to go. So right now you are still working under two regulations that have the year on them of 2014. But we are getting closer, and we will update everyone once that regulation has passed its final hurdle. We do recommend that you train more people than you will need for testing because you would rather be safe than sorry. You do not want to wind up on test day and have teachers out and not have enough people that have been trained in the material and the regulations to administer your tests when the day comes. Under the Administration Code, we talk about test security. It is everyone's responsibility, from the students all the way up to the people at the board office. We use analysis of results and allegations to look at how we can improve test security across the state. We had a process done where we were evaluated on the state level, and we have changed policies over time to improve our procedures at the state office as well as procedures down through you all. We do not want anyone to lose their certification due to a security issue with the state test. So we often say that if you have a good process in your school and district, then you have good security. There are monitoring visits where we will come out randomly to different schools, and that will be for the science test as well as the spring testing, where we will come in and just monitor how the testing is done to make sure that things are being done properly, materials are secure, and everything. We do recommend that you always verify your accommodation list, because often schools will start out early to prepare for the upcoming test window, and they will make an original list. And then, as we all know, students move around, they change schools, they change states, they come and go, and often those students with IEPs, PSPs, or 504s are in and out of your school. And what was once an original list is no longer accurate. You want to check that list just prior to testing to ensure that there's been no ARC meetings that might have taken away an accommodation or given a new accommodation to a student, because if a student receives an accommodation that is not on their list, it will be an allegation. You want to remind your proctors to be up and moving around in the room, being in motion so the students know that they are being observed and that the proctor is engaged in what they're doing, again, adds to the security of your test. And you need to have a plan for cell phones at your school, whether it be you collect them at the door as students come into your classroom, or whether you leave them face down on their desks turned off. But have a plan that you know how you're going to do things in your school and district. For the inclusions regulation, this is some of the topics that we'll talk about. Obviously, we've removed the student initiated. We want to remind everybody that the IEPs, 504s, and PSPs are still student-driven documents, so the student is actively part of that process. That accommodations are part of a student's ongoing instructional program. It is not something that you give to them just for an assessment. And still, you need to be looking at technology first, as that is the real world and where the kids will be working in once they leave our schools. This is a look at all of the accommodations allowed on the state assessments. reminding you that there are numerous accommodations out there that are great accommodations and teaching aids that a student can use during instruction, but only certain ones are allowed during an assessment. So keep in mind that you know what they are and that the student knows that while they use some during instruction, they may not all be allowed to be used during the assessment. One of the technology aspects that is out there for students with an IEP or a 504 is the non-standard response template. If they receive a scribe and have technology on their program plan, they would be available to use the non-standard response template. There are different templates out there. We have 3 on the K-Prep page: the short answer, extended response, and on-demand writing templates. There is one for the science field test, and that is located on the forms page. But this would be a possibility for students who get technology and scribe on their program plan. Braille is a little different this year. It still comes in a kit, but it is changing across the state on the forms that are used. Nemeth code was the original code that was used for Braille. It has now begun to switch over to UEB, Unified English Braille. So this year when you place your order for Braille materials, you'll do that according to your shipment option, and you have to order additional materials by June 7th. But once you place that order for your materials, the DAC will be receiving a call, and what they need to know is how you want your Braille materials shipped, which kind. So it can be different for each student. Some schools only use Unified English Braille, UEB. Other schools use Unified English Braille for all the written content, but still use the Nemeth code for the math. So you can get your Braille booklets sent for a student as all UEB or UEB with Nemeth, and it can be different for each school in your or each student in your school. So your DAC will need to know that when you get a call from Pearson. The call will probably come from Candy or Greta. The audio CDs are a kit as well that can be ordered. They are available for all grade levels taking the K-Prep assessment. Again, a reminder that this is not a online test. Students have to answer in their student response booklet. They do not have to have any internet. They need their own earphones and a way to play the CD, whether that is a CD standalone player or a computer. K-Prep Online Text Reader is available this year again for the students who receive technology and a reader on their IEP or their 504. It is available again on Windows, Mac, iPad, and Chromebook. It is only available for grades 3 through 8, unlike the audio CD. The star signifies the new link for the new sampler this year with the username and password. The students will know if they are in the proper sampler if they see the new KDE logo on it. So you want to make sure that you're dealing with the right one as you're checking your equipment to ensure that everything loads properly. If you're using last year's sampler and it has last year's KDE logo, you are not in the newest version. Your student individual logins and passwords will arrive the week your materials arrive for K-Prep. And again, the students have to respond in their student response booklet. It is not an online test. It is only an online reader. This is what the students will see when they actually log into the sampler. As you can see, the new logo will be there. This is where they will enter sampler and sampler as the username and password. Again, this year they have grades 4 and 8 just as the sampler. It is not a matter of grade level questions, it's how they are able to use the sampler. The arrow shows you where you can locate all the user guides that give you the information about your equipment and what you need to do to set up anything in particular for the type of devices you are using. The students would then pick a grade to practice in. Once they do that, it will show them the subjects that are open for that grade level. So in the live test, it would have reading A, B, and C, for example, math A, B, and C, and whatever other subjects are there. They would then click one of those, and then it takes them to the live test. The reader itself has not changed as far as where the buttons are located across the top. So they still have the ability to choose how they want to view their table of contents, either in a picture form or words. They can increase the size to fit how they can see it best. This is often good for visually impaired students. The settings, they have the options of choosing the speed, whether or not they look at one page or two, if it's a continuous play, and the selection of colors for highlighting the words as it reads so they can follow along. The question mark is only used for the iPad. The home button is slightly different when you click on it. That's why I included a screenshot of it. It now will close out or gray out the page behind it and ask the student, do you want to leave this test? If they do not and they hit no, they can continue on where they are at. If they hit yes, they are done with the test, it will take them back to the beginning of the test booklet. So they will be back at the original table of contents. This is all for the text reader and regulation update. Here is a list of all of us in the Division of Assessment Support. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us via email or our phone number.